being here. Before I even start, I just want to say thank you for all the organization who will help us to get this event, IAC, Hilal International, Jimana, the Jewish Agency, and Masa. So thank you for thanks of you, we have this amazing panels. So I'm Morella. I'm the Israel Fellow at UGA Hillel. I'm super excited to be in this panel. I'm a third generation in Israel from Yemen. And the Mizrachi culture and my Yemenite culture is something I always was very proud of and very passionate about. When we trying to figure out the name for this panel, we were so struggling because what is a Mizrachi feminist, right? What is a Mizrachi? Is it Yemenite Jews? Is it Iraqi Jews? Is it Kurdish Jews? Is it Persian Jews? What is even Mizrachi? So the easy answer will be yes, it's all of them. It's all the Jewish, he came from the Arab country. But if you ask me, I'm not a Mizrachi Jew, I'm a Yemenite Jew. But if I have to generalize it, I will say yes, I am Mizrachi Jew. And today in this panel, we're gonna dive into something even more complex than that, which is the Mizrachi feminists. So I'm happy to introduce our amazing speaker. We have Gina Waldman, she's the founder and president of Jimana. And we have Reut Nagar, she is the social activist and focusing especially on LGBTQ and women's rights. And we have our amazing Lipa Azila, she's a former Jewish Agency Israel Fellow at UCLA Hillel and Mizrachi activist. So I'm happy to open these panels, and I want to give the stage to Gina Waldman to start to introduce herself. So Gina, please, the stage is yours.
I have to unmute. Okay. My name is Gina Waldman. I was born and raised in Libya. I believe I'm the oldest person here in the panel. And I basically, I became an activist only after our family was actually expelled from Libya, and we risked, I mean, many of you may have known my story. We were trying to escape from Libya, and the Libyan terrorists tried to burn the bus we were on. We finally escaped, and I came to the United States. And when I came to the United States, first I became very active in the human rights in Chile and Argentina during the Pinochet regime. I was very active with Amnesty International and other human rights organizations. Then I got active with the Soviet Jewry movement, where I went to Russia, was followed by KGB, had been arrested several times for civil disobedience, chained myself to gates of the consulate, went on hunger strikes. Anyway, I did all of the quote unquote civil disobedience in the 70s and the 80s. And then about 12, 14 years ago, I decided after 9/11 that I wanted to start an organization to tell the story of the Jews from the Arab countries and how our own rights had been denied and forgotten by the world community, which the organization's name is Jimana, Jews Indigenous to the Middle East and North Africa, of which I'm still today a president. Thank you.
We'll continue with Reut.
Hi, everybody. My name is Reut Nagar. I grew up in Ashdod. Ashdod is a conservative city in south of Israel. My mother was born in Morocco and my father was born in Egypt. I came out of the closet when I was 22. I left home when I was 19 and a half. I moved to Tel Aviv and I live here ever since. I can speak about my activism. I remember I always cared too much about things. I remember I always like to overthink about the society and the place I live. And I would like to tell a little story from my childhood when I was like in the 3rd or 4th grade. We used to lit candles, Nerot Shabbat, in Ashdod with my mother and my sister, the women of the family. And every Friday evening, my mother would say, this candle is for Eliyahu Hanavi, this candle is for Yosef HaTzadik, this candle is for Avraham Avinu. And I remember asking her as a little girl, Mommy, why all of them are men? Aren't there women in the which are like important women in the Judaism? And I remember her looking at me, and she was smiling, and she told me, "Okay, you know what? Choose one woman that you want to dedicate the candle for." And I remember the Dvorah from the Bible. So ever since that day and until today, even when I'm not home and my mother leaves the candle when I'm not home, my candle is like the feminist candle for Dvorah Nevi'ah and the for mothers. So I'm telling this story because I think every one of us has this urge when we feel that the society and the world comes with a conflict, with some truth that we feel inside. And when we speak up and we say how we feel, we can change a lot. That's how I feel. So thank you.
Thank you, Reut. And Lipaz? Wait, you need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now? Great. Hi, my name is Lipaz. Super excited to be here, by the way. This is amazing. Originally from Jerusalem. I'm currently speaking to you from Tel Aviv. And my parents, my story is a bit different. I think maybe my parents came from Kurdistan, which means that I'm first generation in Israel. For those of you who don't know, Kurdistan is not a country, but it's a mix of a landscape between Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Turkey. And I grew up in Israel as an Israeli. I did the normal route of going to the army. I served for 7 years as an officer. And I think that I started my journey back to my roots and back to my Mizrachi or Arab roots, specifically when I was an Israel fellow at UCLA, and started to reclaim my identity and connect back to my roots. And these days, I'm actually researching the next Mizrachi identity in young women between the ages of 20 and 30 in Israel, and seeing how this identity is actually formed in current days of Israel. Yeah.
So thank you, Gina, Reut, and Lipaz. We're going to start off with our questions. And for the student, all the amazing people that we have here, if you have any question you want to ask, please write them down on the chat so we can ask them, and you can hear the answer to the question that you're asking. So our first question will be for all of you, but I want to start with Gina. Is if can each one of you elaborate more about one life project you're most proud of?
Okay, now, which project I'm most proud of? I believe my work to get Soviet Jews out of the Soviet Union was a very major project that shaped not only my life as a human rights activist, but to basically that came from the background I came from, because I felt very oppressed. Not just living as a Jew in an Arab country, but it manifested itself in my activism. And my equal project that I'm very proud of is to bring to light the education about our history by forming Jimena and educating. I was privileged to, for example, testify at the United States Congress, at the United Nations, at the Canadian Congress and the Italian Congress, in Israel at the Knesset. Actually, the Israeli one was the most challenging because I basically used my shame on you for not recognizing 50% of your population and for not educating your own people. So I have to say that I guess my activism and to refuse to be silent, and even at the risk to be arrested, which I was 3 times, brought me to the level of getting the respect of my community. And as a matter of fact, now people know about the history of Jews from other countries, which they did not before. But I was alone.
Thank you, Gina. And the questions go to Reut.
Okay. So usually when I'm asked to be introduced, I introduced myself as an activist for women, LGBTQ+, and women inside the LGBTQ+ community. I say this because with time, I started as an activist at the LGBTQ community. But then I realized that we have to promote feminism inside the LGBTQ community, because also inside of the LGBTQ community, there is a patriarchy. So I'm an entrepreneur and I do a lot of projects. And in every project I do, I advanced feminism. For example, in 2016, I promoted with a group of friends the theme Women for Pride Parade, and it really changed the perspective. Only the debates and the arguments on Facebook about why do you need this kind of subject and when do we do a parade when the theme will be men, you know, all of this, it only made it clear how much we need to promote feminism inside of the community. I also started 4 years ago a website called Wedge website, and that's Israel's LGBTQ news, and the purpose is to tell about the news of the LGBTQ community from inside of the community, and to have a website that has all the information in our language. So this is the website. And I also started this forum with another two friends, Avishag and Shirley, which called Chaya, and this is a forum of LGBTQ Mizrachi, and this is only part of the things that I do.
Thank you. It sounds amazing. Lipat.
Like I shared with you, in the past 2 years, I've been researching Mizrachi identity with dozens of women. I've interviewed dozens of women in the ages of 20 to 30 to understand how they see Mizrachi identity and how does the Mizrachi identity of the next generation is actually manifesting in Israel nowadays. And in my day job, I'm an educator, and I believe that through education, that's how you can make a difference, and that's my line of work. And I think that the work that I've done and the conclusion that I've come through this research was mainly how can we incorporate Mizrachi history. And I need to say a disclaimer. I know that we say Mizrachi, and I do identify as a Mizrachi Jew, but I do identify as an Arab Jew as well. That's one of the conclusions that I've got in my research. A lot of reclaiming our identity is also taking back the names that were left out or were delegitimized in the past. So just a small disclaimer. And I really believe that hopefully when I finish my research this year, that we'll come to the conclusion on how we can incorporate different education on the history, on different poets, on different literature, on different culture that existed in the Arab world, in the Jewish Arab world, and incorporated it in the education system. And I really hope that through this work, the young generation will reclaim their identity, and it won't be delegitimized, or it won't be put in one box or the other, and we'll be able to just be here.
Thank you. I think it's amazing because all of you are like first and second generation, and I think I'm living proof of the third generation. So my grandpa came from Yemen to Israel. So like everything you do is so important and something that we really, really need to have, especially in those days. And now I'm going next to our next question, sorry. And when we talk about Mizrachi, we talk about a feminist. I want to ask you, how would you describe a Mizrachi feminist in your eyes? Because it's such a big word to say, I'm Mizrachi and I'm a feminist. So in your eyes, what does it actually mean? And we'll start with Jenna.
I just want to draw from my own personal experience. I don't know that there is such a thing as a movement, although I'm really happy to see younger generations, such as yourselves, getting much more activated in that. I have to say that from my own personal experience, at the age of 14, in order for me to get an actual education, because I came from not only a traditional religious kind of Orthodox background, living in Libya as a Jew, but I also, my family was very highly influenced by the Arab culture that we lived in. I was not really allowed to have an education over the age of 14 to 15. I turned out to be that I was the only woman in my entire community that actually went on a hunger strike in order to get educated outside of Libya. I actually convinced my parents after 5 days of hunger strike, I blackmailed them basically, until they sent me to Switzerland to one of the finest boarding schools where I formed a very large part of my education and speak French. And then after that, I went on to England and I educated myself further. So when I came back, it struck me that my dad actually told me, you asked for this, you asked to be educated, you may never find a Mizrachi husband, or you may never find a man from our community to marry you. And that is something to be said. I did marry an Ashkenaz, obviously, because there was no way that the men that my family had set up to had me married. All of my cousins had arranged marriages. I had to escape that as well. So I find that in a way I encapsulated really the plight of so many women that in those days may not have had the chance that I did, which is to really be gutsy enough and do what I did in my life. And that's really what guided me for the rest of my life. One of the Knesset members once, when I confronted him about not including education in Israel about the history of the Jews from our countries, he said, wait, are you the lady that never says, takes no for an answer? And I said, yes, I am. So I think, I mean, I could talk forever. I don't want to take over the program, but I think that each one of us has to relate their own personal history and what exactly made us tick. Whether it was an experience like we just heard about the lighting the candle, devoting that was an act of activism in a way, because the tradition was changed in the family since one of the ladies decided to speak out. Well, in my case, it was different. I did go back to Libya, and of course, young cousins and friends started making fun of me. They said, oh, so now you think you're such a big shot, you got an education, you speak 5 languages now, what's it to you? You know. So no man would dare date me because they were threatened by any woman who has a brain. So that is just a piece of my information.
Thank you, Jenna. Reut?
Hi. Okay, so I have to think about my mother. She was born in Morocco. She's the oldest daughter. My grandmother got married when she was 14, and she and my grandfather have 8 children, and my mother is the oldest one. So she and my grandmother was kind of also a bit of friends. My mother was always an ambitious person. When she came here to Israel, she was 6 years old, and they grew up in a poverty, but she would never like let it take her down. when she grew up, she got high scores, and there were two options. When she was 14, there were two options for her: either to go to a class which you go to college after, or you go to a class when you learn a skill and you start work and bring money home. And my mother wanted to educate herself, and that was very rare for a woman and for a Mizrachi woman. But my grandmother really backed her up. And although her uncles always said, no, go to this class and bring money home, and all the men of the family like really pressured her, she finally studied in this class, and then she moved on for academic degree. From the 8 brothers and sisters of my mother, 3 of them has academic degree. And I really admire her. She always taught us. She never admits it that there is a struggle of Mizrachi feminism. But when I grew up, I learned to see it and to mark it. And once you mark the problem, that's the first step of start and solving it. They say we have this transparent glass, but now I think it's not very transparent, because now we know to say there is violence against women. Women are getting paid 33% less. We're not promoted. Now we know how to mark the problems. I think that's something kind of new that we know to say what are we fighting for. And I believe that we're in the right direction. Thanks.
I'm relating to what you said, Reut, because my story starts with my mom as well. And the household that I grew up in was a household in Jerusalem, which I always heard stories about the discrimination that my parents have been through their years when they came to Israel, and what happened with the government, and they didn't get education. They were forced to work in specific jobs. And I always heard their stories. And one day my mom told me a story that she was a part of the Black Panthers, the Mizrachi Black Panthers protest in Jerusalem. There was a big movement of like young Mizrachi that went to the streets and just protested about the discrimination. And she told me she was a part of them. She told me she went barefoot, and that was like a thing of act of protesting there. And I was like, okay, mom, but this is over. It was over. I was a teenager. It doesn't happen anymore. Sababa, you did your work. I'm good now. I'm an Israeli, and I'm living my life pretty well in Jerusalem. I saw myself as a pure Israeli. And when I started my journey back to the roots, and I actually was exposed to feminism, to Mizrachi feminism through performing arts. And I don't know how many of you know different performing arts. Either it's slam poetry, either it's different movies like Women in Concrete Boxes of Vicky Shiran, the literature, different women that actually wrote, created, and shared their pain through the arts. And I'm a creator, and that was my first connection. And when I connected to Mizrachi feminism through those aspects, through the poems, through the different performances that I've seen, I went back to my mom. And last year was the first time that I actually opened up the subject with her and just asked her, what does she think? How does she see it? My mom doesn't call it feminism. It's not in her mindset. It's not how she describes it. In her mind, she's been a strong woman her own life. My dad always supported her, and she was a strong woman who just shouted out her pain and tried to make justice in the world for her and for everybody else. And if you'll ask my friends, or if you'll ask the people around me how they see me, I think it's the same way. I feel that I'm a strong woman. There's just one justice for me and one equality for me, but for everybody else around me. That's why my feminism doesn't end with just Mizrachi feminism. I'm also an activist. I'm different activist in different fields. And I find it connecting, especially with my Mizrachi heritage and my Arab culture, it's connecting to different fields in Israel and different spectrum of activism here as well.
you. So both of you, all of you kind of mentioned the history in Israel. And this is a question more for Lipaz and Reut. When we talk about the Mizrachi history in Israel, I think all of us struggle in a point to find our own fit and to be proud of it, and also to be critical about it, And I want to ask you about, from the Mizrachi feminist point of view, the melting pot, which is the melting pot, like in the history of Israel. I think all of us see the influence and the impact until today. And I want to ask you, what do you wish to accomplish in the future? And if you think it was successful or not? And Reut and Lipaz, whoever of you who want to start.
Go, Lipaz.
Yalla. Okay, so I honestly, I hate the word melting pot. I'll tell you why. It's taking one subject and the other subjects and melting them together, which means none of them have actually their original substance. And I remember when I got to LA, I had a large student groups of Persian Jews. And I got to know the Persian community, and I got to go to their houses, and all of them have spoke Persian. Most of them have saved the different culture their parents came from. And suddenly it seemed weird for me because my dad speaks Arabic, my mom speaks Kurdish. I was never spoken one word in Arabic in my home because it was not accepted. Because at home we listened to Mizrachi music, we listened to Arabic music, but when I went to school and when I went to high school, that wasn't an acceptable thing. Back in my days, it wasn't the cool thing for sure, but it also wasn't the general population thing. And I think the melting pot was one of Israel's biggest tragedies. Tragedies. And what I'm trying to do is actually reclaim and go back to my roots and see how can my Kurdish roots and my Arab culture actually manifest in these days in modern Israel, and how can my Israeliness come together with my Arab culture, because it seems to actually clash. So when I'm asked about a melting pot, I think it's a very bad decision. And when I'm speaking to women, when I'm speaking to different people from different origins, I'm asking them to reclaim and actually connect to what's theirs, because there's nothing conflicting between our Mizrachi heritage and our Israeli heritage and our Jewish heritage. And if my grandfather could have been an Arab Jew back in Kurdistan, I can be an Arab Jew in current Israel.
Yeah. Reut.
So about the melting point, I say it's a good idea, it's a good vision, but the performance was poor because you cannot. I mean, the idea is to promote diversity. The melting pot was an idea of bringing everybody together from countries all over the world and living in the same country, and they will melt to one diverse society. But when you say everything is in the center, the sides stay outside. So I think a lot about diversity during my activism at the LGBTQ community, because our flag is the six colors flag. I think it's a sign of diversity because we're here and we're everywhere, and I think it's something very important to promote. But here in Israel, when everybody's sitting around this table, which in this table the decisions are made and they're all homogenic, you cannot speak about a melting pot. I'm sorry. You have to diverse the table because a diverse decision table means more creativity with solutions and a wider responsibility at the society for the solutions that are made in this table. Because I bring it to my community and she brings it to her community, and that's how you're supposed to run a society. And I'm sorry it didn't happen, and I hope we can do it in the future, and we are working on doing it. We're doing it, and I see it happen, and I see the progress. So this is my answer.
Thank you. I think I asked like in purpose about the mental pot because I think it's a subject that still today people in Israel, as Israelis, start like trying to understand what does even mean. what is it meant by? Is it how are we going to reclaim our own identity and be like Israeli, right? How I can be Yemenite and Jewish and Israeli and all of us together. And I think what society taught us today is that intersectionality, that you can be all of them at once, and doesn't mean you have to choose and to be one thing or another. And I'll go for my next question. I think the question is for Gina. This is from the student, from the IAC MIshelanu fellow student. Gina, what did life look like for Mizrachi Jewish women in Arab countries? Consider the Arab world has historically not been friendly to the women or Jews.
The life for Jews in general, we had, growing up in Tripoli, Libya, we had, first there was 32,000 Jews living in Libya. After the creation of the State of Israel, and by the time I was born, which was 1948, I'm now 72, so you don't have to do the math. By that time, there were only 6,000 Jews, and of course, today there are none. It was extremely difficult, not just for women, but also for men. I remember that every Friday, some people may ask, well, if it was that hard, why didn't you just leave? Well, it's a simple question that is very hard to answer. The Libyan government, as well as many Arab countries, had made sure that Jews who were in Arab countries were not permitted to leave. In order to leave a country, you need a passport, which was not given to Jews. We were given what they call like a laissez-passer, which is a travel document, that in order to leave one country, you need to have a visa from the country that accepts you. In other words, when I went to Switzerland, my father had to put down a bond and make sure that nobody else from my family could leave the country except myself. And the travel document they gave me was only good for 6 months at the time. And I had to get a visa from Switzerland saying that I was accepted in a boarding school. So in other words, we were basically bottled in and trapped. After 1948, Jews could not leave. This was one way how the Arab countries were able to control the flow of Jews getting into Israel, because they felt that by allowing Jews to leave, although we were citizens that break no laws and had no wars against our own hosts, and we were always subjugated and always, second-class citizens, and we did not have any civil rights or human rights. In fact, even though my parents owned the building where we lived, we still could not have a phone. We still could not vote. We still could not basic human rights, such as the right of travel, the right of free movement, was not given to us. And so it was extremely difficult. But it became more difficult when I actually tasted freedom. Because don't forget, once I got to Switzerland, there were no restrictions. So when I went back, it's like coming out of prison and going back into prison. And so psychologically, this had a big toll on me. And I think this is exactly what shaped my life as an activist, that I did not want to accept the fact that we didn't have rights. Because until I went to Switzerland, I thought all Jews all over the world were treated like this. I had no idea you could be free as a Jew. I hope this answered the question.
It is, thank you. And this is for three of you. How does Mizrachi religious tradition influence Mizrachi women both individually and socially? Is it still relevant in modern times and among younger generation? So Lipaz, if you want to start.
It's a very good question. It hits right the point. I'll share what I've learned, and then I shared my personal conflicts with the subject. So I've learned that a lot of our culture is traditional culture. I mean, when Mizrachi Jews came to Israel, they were only two segments that Israel knew. There were religious people and there were non-religious people. And suddenly came the Mizrachi Jews, and they were kind of an in-between, or what we called Masorti in Hebrew, or in Israel. And that was kind of a weird character that wasn't familiar here in the state of Israel back in 48. And then it was like kind of in the middle between being religious and being secular. And it was a weird characteristic. I come from a traditional home, or a Masorti home, which I had the religion and the traditional religion aspects being played in every Friday night dinner, every Shabbat dinner, every holiday. And I think in my personal life currently, I went back to tradition. I'm currently a master's student at Hebrew Union College, so I study Jewish pluralistic education in the rabbinical school, and I'm getting back to the tradition and back to Judaism and back to my parents and their parents' traditions as well. But in modern Israel, when I was a teenager, it was exactly the opposite. So my journey from a very, very, very chiloni, just got the word out of my mouth, very secular Israeli, very Zionist, very secular, very kind of anti-religion and Judaism. I went back to my roots, and I reclaimed both my Judaism, both my Mizrachi heritage, and manifested in nowadays Israel, and it works.
Thank you. Reut, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in a religious home, and I rebelled because I felt oppressed as a woman and as a lesbian. But you mentioned the Masortiyut, and in the LGBTQ community, on the forum that we are promoting now, the Mizrachi LGBTQ forum, I heard this saying that Masortiyut is like a Judaism queerness, because it's not dichotomic. So I grew up in this Masorti home, like queer Judaism. We lit candles, and my mother does not drive in Shabbat, and we eat kosher, and we have a separate set of tools. But my mother also watches TV, so that's the Masortiyut. And I think on the just a few days ago, we celebrated the Mimouna. This year we did it on Zoom, all the family. And I learned that the Mimouna is a celebration started in Morocco when the Jews in Morocco were finished with eating the matzot and started to eat chametz again. That was like an open home celebration that everybody could come, Jews or not Jews, and everybody, and that's the celebration of eating together sweets and hoping for a better future and happiness. And I rebelled the tradition. I feel that when I left home, I was even angry about Judaism that left me outside. But today, I reclaim my Jewish identity because I believe there is many ways of being Jewish. There is a very beautiful sentence in Judaism, Shiv'im panim laTorah. That means 70 faces to Torah, to the Bible. So I take this sentence and I think it reflects the diversity, which is something I really like to promote in the society, and I really think that's the key for a change. Thank you for this question.
Yeah, Reut, post-corona, you're coming to Shabbat dinner.
Yay!
Post-corona time in Tel Aviv, yalla.
Is there a fish, a Moroccan fish?
Gina, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I want to go back to what Lipaz said, because I think it's so important, because if we pay attention to what she said, is that she was able to reclaim her tradition, the religion, reclaim everything that was basically taken away from this quote-unquote melting pot. I didn't get a chance to reply to that. I think this this idea of being able to be what you should be and respect the diversity of other nationalities in Israel is a key to what Israel made a big mistake. What Israel made a big mistake on different areas. First of all, they honored, as an example, the tradition and customs and history of what we want to call the Ashkenazi Jews, whether they were Russian Jews or Ukrainian Jews. But when Jews first came to Israel in 1948, we were the ones who were sprayed with DDT. But the people who came from Romania or from Hungary or from places that were even poorer and less educated than we were not sprayed with DDT. It's a very ugly history. Our children, Yemeni children, Moroccan children, were given to adoption. Let's not forget that this is one area that has to be, what I say, cleaned up. Israel has to come to grips with its own ugly history. And I say this to us because we love Israel. We want it to be doing the right thing. We want to give it positive criticism. You will not find any more pro-Israel person than the group in this group. The fact is that until we educate in order to, admit the wrongs that were done, the melting pot idea is kind of comes after, because these shameful acts that were perpetrated against us, whether we want to admit it publicly or not, they were facts. And I think that facts cannot lie. And when we look at the pain and suffering that our own parents and grandparents went through in Israel, my family, it's typically, I know of a lot of families that will say, we're in Israel now. We should thank God, Hashem, that we're here, kiss the ground of Israel. Nothing is wrong so long as Israel does it. Well, there is something to be said about that, because we came from such regimes that wouldn't even allow us to go to synagogue, let alone be free wearing a yarmulke in the street, that you can see why our grandparents and parents act this way. But whose fault is it that we did not fight for our rights to be who we are? Whose right is it that we didn't write our history? Whose right is it and whose fault is it that we didn't bang at the door like the Ashkenazi and the Russians did to the Minister of Education and said, you know what, we are now half of the population of Israel. Your Israeli citizens do not know their own history because you have avoided to tell our history. It's our fault. We are the ones who have to bang at the door. So I wanted to say that piece. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
And now you can hear me. So thank you. And yes, and I would agree. And I would even say that I always encourage the people around me to, like Ve'ut and Lipaz also said, to explore their own identity, to understand what does it mean to be Mizrachi, what does it mean for me to be Yemenite Jew, even though I'm a third generation in Israel, I'm still Yemenite from both of my sides, right? My grandpa came to Israel from Yemen, but it's something that's still important to me because this is part of my identity. And it's our part and our responsibility to tell our own story. Because if we're not gonna tell our story, no one is gonna do it. And this led me to our last questions, is that how do you see the Mizrachi woman movement, the Mizrachi feminist movement look like in the future? What is your vision? What do you want to accomplish? And I would like to start with Jenna.
I think that we have to recognize that unless we enlist the support of men, supportive men, who are, whether they're in Israel or in other parts of the world, men have the key to, in many ways, open the door to our future. And I believe that to cut them out of the picture would be a big mistake, because It's like trying to get a loan without going to the bank. The bank is the money. The men in Israel are running the country. Is a very, very patriotic society. And sure, they have elected a few members in Congress, maybe, you know, they make it look like, but you mentioned, I believe, or someone mentioned that women are paid 33% less than men. In the United States, as you know, we are much more into equal pay for men and women. You have one power, which is to vote. Well, should you not have busloads of women land in Knesset and demand something? Should you not have hunger strikes outside the Knesset and say, we demand equal pay? How do you accomplish something? You get the media and the press to cover you, and you prove by statistics how certain women have been discriminated. There's a lot of sexual harassment in Israel. Men think that they can just come and say some things to women, whether it's verbal harassment or physical, that exists. A friend of mine said something which I think sticks to this day. She said, Israel, sometimes they pretend they're not in the Middle East, but we are in the Middle East. Those men have, a lot of men in Israel have a Middle Eastern mentality, and they think that if you're pretty and work as their assistant, they have the right to talk to you in very disrespectful way or whatever. Why isn't there a movement like that? And of course, we cannot do this alone, but I think that I see a lot of positive, bright, very intelligent women in this group alone. If you start mobilizing, I see this group as developing into more series, that you have to start a movement. There is no such a thing as a movement. A movement is when you have 250,000 people, men and women, stand in front of the Knesset with banners and say, we demand. That's a movement. You don't have that in Israel. Now, you do have what I'm really very impressed with. I was in Israel during the gay parade. Now, that was a movement. If you can get the gay community, the different communities, especially the multicultural communities and religious and non-religious communities to join you, I say, go for it. I'm an activist at heart, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you, Gina. Lipaz.
Well, first of all, in order for a Mizrachi feminism to exist in the future, we need to keep on sharing the Mizrachi story. So I think the one and most important thing is keep telling the story, because like things have been lost with me when my mom told me stories, and a lot of the cultures and a lot of the things have been lost along the way. It's our responsibility to keep sharing the story and keep actually moving it forward, both to our kids, but both to everyone in our countries. And I think that what started me in my journey was then when I came back to Israel, and I'm connecting to what Gina said, because she said about role models and about a movement. And I've looked around Israel and I've asked myself, what is a Mizrachi woman role model that I see as an inspiration in our culture? I've looked at our politicians, I've looked at the media, I've looked at different segmentations of the Israeli culture. And I couldn't find one role model that actually represents me, my intersectionality, my different parts of culture. I'm a woman, I'm a Mizrachi, I'm a very liberal, I'm very Jewish, I'm very liberal. I'm all of the above. And none of these existed in the people that I saw as my role models in culture. And when you ask me what is the future of this movement, is actually putting these women and understanding that these women can exist in the general culture, not only in webinars, not only in activism in the streets, but putting them in mainstream culture and making people believe that this is possible.
Amazing said, thank you. And now we'll continue with Reut, that she's gonna share with us something that she has wrote.
Okay, so I wrote this part, this text, and I want to thank Efrat Hardon and Dan Gazit helping me translate it. And I'm going to read it. It's on your chat, so you can follow the text. Why do I do what I do? I grew up in a mind-filled home. The paradox is that my mother and my grandmother and all the women in our family are ninjas, lionesses. If something happens, it's obvious who you turn to and who will sort everything out. But then comes this moment right after Friday dinner when the table needs to be cleared, or that moment that my father complains there's not enough salt, or why is there a cinnamon in the food. I grew up in a mind-filled home, and each blast killed me, and I was reborn stronger with one more layer. And as strong as I grew, I also felt subdued under the pressure of conventions, ob- obedient to laws I didn't write and never agreed to, neither me nor my mother's. Laws that place me low in the social hierarchy. I grew up in a minefield home until intimacy became exclusive for me. Sometimes when you close your eyes, it becomes noisier. Why am I needed? I am cramped inside a paradigm. Woman, lesbian, Mizrachi, single, a paradigm that is too small for me. And like Alice who licked the drop I grew, I still grow and cannot stop. This paradigm is pressing me, and I have two options. Either I explode or I break this paradigm, and breaking it will redesign the space I live in. What is broken? All existing paradigms by which we are divided: black, white, woman, man, leftish, rightish, intellectual, street smart are irrelevant. Each such division not only does not advance society, but also harms it. The partially suitable is prioritized over fully suitable when assigning positions, and the whole puzzle becomes crooked. Each movement makes it fall apart. Parts that are not in place are forcefully welded together to create a human organism whose energy is spent on survival instead of fulfillment. A dysfunctional body that does not realize its potential. What is my plan? The partition plan, to redefine the paradigms, to suggest new idea. When a person is placed in an area they don't belong to, they lack motivation and make everything below them rot. Whatever they responsible for does not function. Mark whatever is unsuitable. Remap those willing to advance at the price of harming the human organism are not suitable. If a personal interest comes at the expense of public interest, a move is needed. Go to a journey in search of essence. Relocate in the system. I grew up in a minefield home. That home is my country. And my goal is to feel at home at home. Thank you.
Thank you. It was amazingly sad. We're running out of time and we have 2 minutes left. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Gina, Lipaz, and Re'ot. It was amazingly beautiful done and said. Thank you again for IAC, Hillel International, Jimana, the Jewish Agency, and Masa. And thank you for your, like, all the participants. Thank you. If you have anything else you want to keep exploring, keep learning, I will send my personal emails and Slate email for the chat. So please, if anything you want to just like hear feedback, it's very important to us so we can improve and we can know better. And also if you want to hear more about the Mizrachi feminists, more about Mizrachi words and women and men, please write to us. We will be happy to do it. And I just want to say that for me, it was very important to be in this kind of conversation because suddenly it's not happening enough. And even though sometimes I feel like we I preach to the choir, because the people who's on this conversation is the people that aware in some point or want to be aware. It's our responsibility to share the story. Because I am Israeli, I am Yemenite, I am Jewish, I am woman and Yemenite, and I'm proud of it. And I just want to give Jenna the right to speak. Jenna?
I just think that the key, everybody has said and we agree, is education. The more we tell our story, how do we tell our story? Go to jimena.org. We have the story of 11, or actually 10 Arab countries plus Iran. It's jimena.org. I invite everybody to go and share their story through our website. Thank you.
So thank you all. Happy to see all of you, and I'm giving the right to speech to Tali. And sorry, before that, I have to say that next, like just after us, we have a belly dancing class with amazing Miriam Peretz. And then later we have a crazy dance party with the DJ Hummus, which is only because his name, you have to be it. It's DJ Hummus, like, come on. So I hope to see you there. And Tali, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot from that panel, and I also felt very connected to my roots, even though you don't see it. I am also half Moroccan, Jinjit and all. But I wanted to say thank you to everyone who came in. As we advertised, we are also hosting a bit of a raffle right now. Tzlil, my beautiful co-host in this, is also going to be pulling out names. So we're gonna do that as a quick transition, and then we're gonna get our belly dancing moves on. So Tzlil, do you wanna shake something?
Yeah, I'm going to start, okay.
Just to mention before you start, some people ask in the chat, where is the dance class taking place? So just stay here, it's on the same Zoom meeting, the same link, you don't need to go anywhere, and we will start in 5 minutes.
Okay, the first number is 15, 40, 58, and 25, 24, 36. We have already 6 numbers. We need 4 more. 37, 19, 65, and the last number is 12. Okay, so we will let you know in the email which number won the raffle, and if you won, you're gonna get an Amazon gift card, and you can use it for whatever you want. Thank you guys for joining, and girls for joining us, and we are going to start the belly dancing class in a few minutes.
Goodbye, everyone.
Or stay.
All right, thank you so much.
You can stay on the link to get to the belly dancing class. You don't have to switch on.
Stay with us, yes. Don't
Stay
go.
with
us.
DJ session is gonna be here too.
Woo.
Okay.
Thank you, very interesting.
Okay, so I have some questions in the chat. One is, where's the dance class? It's here. How do we know our number? We are matching it up to the registration number, in order of who registered. So we have a list of your names, and we'll email you if you won, and with information that we'll receive, because we'll need to send it to you. Should we dance with or without shoes? I think that's completely up to you. Okay. And in the meantime, before we get started, we're going to play a little bit of music for you all, just to get us into the vibe. I see some people stretching.
لهلا يصد كتار لهلا يصد كتار انا عيت وعيت ما نصبر وإلا نويت تخدر قولها وهنيني قول لي واش تبغيني وقت سعاد بني انا منسوب انا يا منسوب انا يا منسوب ازاي سرب المكتوب لمن غادي تخليني لهلا يصد كتار لهلا يصد كتار انا عيت ما نصبر الا نويت تختار قولها وهنيني وعيت ما نصبر إلا نويت تخدر كلها.
Battery 60%.
Okay, I think we can start the dance class. So hello everyone, thanks for joining us or staying, and thanks for our amazing panelists, Reut, Paz, Gina, our president, and more for moderating the previous session, Mizrachi Feminism. My name is Sapir, I'm the program director at Jemena, Jews indigenous to the Middle East and North Africa. We are a San Francisco-based nonprofit, and our mission is to raise awareness and share the heritage and history of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa, also known as Mizrachim. We are very excited to be here. Thank you, MIshelanu, Hillel, the Jewish Agency, Masa, and everyone for organizing this great day. So we started with a panel. We're going to continue with the dance class, and then we're going to end with a big party with DJ Hummus. I want to start with introducing Miriam. Originally born in Israel, Miriam is an internationally praised dance instructor and performer. She holds a BA in Performing Arts from St. Mary's College of California and completed her Master of Fine Arts from Mills College. Her mother named her after the biblical Miriam, who led the Israelites, Bnei Israel, through the Red Sea with drum and dance. Miriam dance class filled with group rituals that help participants find their deeper meaning and the significance of the movement. Miriam is wonderful. We're working with her for many, many years. Every Mimouna celebration, we're not missing the opportunity to get her to dance and to teach us some new Moroccan and Yemenite move. So Miriam will teach us today, I think, Yemenite style and Moroccan style for the Mimouna. And that's it, Miriam, the stage is all yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for hosting me. Can everyone hear me good? Wonderful. So my family in Israel, my father's side is Moroccan, and I feel the Moroccan dances in my blood, and I love it. And although it was mentioned that it's a belly dance class, it's not a regular belly dance class. Moroccan dance has a lot of belly, has a lot of motion, but it's different than like Egyptian style, or it's very specific. Also the Yemenite style. I was a dancer in Inbal Ethnic Dance Company in Israel, which was an incredible opportunity. So my Yemenite dance training is from, if you know the name, Ilana Cohen. She was the director of Inbal Dance Company for many years. So the Sephardi diaspora brought incredible culture and dances and foods to Israel. And of course, each people with their specific dance, their specific tradition. What I wanted to focus on with the Moroccan is the shikhat dance, which is most commonly done at the henna party. And it's a kind of sex education where the shikhat dancers essentially teach the bride how she's going to move her pelvis, you can see my pelvis, in bed. So it was a kind of way of teaching the hope-to-be virgin how to be with her husband. So the shikhat dance is very sensual, very sexual. It also has a deeply trance-inducing quality. The shikhat dance is not particular to the Jewish people. It's done by Muslims, Jews, by all the people in Morocco. It's kind of across the board. The Yemenite dance tradition is also a shared language between Jews and Muslims in Yemen. However, the Yemenite Jews had some specific nuance in the dance. They had some specific gestures like this one and this that they infused in the dance that was specific to the Yemenite Jews. But a lot of the footwork and musicality is the same. So we're gonna start with Yemenite dance and then move into Moroccan. Do we want a little short warm up to get into our bodies? Let's do a little mini warm up. I'm gonna play a song by beloved family friends in Israel, Diwan Halev. And this is a beautiful song called Mor Ulevona. Myrrh and frankincense. So we open our hearts big and wide. So first we're gonna practice our head. There's a head slide, but the Yemenites use more this, which is kind of like a wobble of the head. So practice sliding your head in this way, tipping the top of the head. Can't see everyone. I'm gonna go to speaker view so I can see. Okay. And then the hands, we have a lot of these wrist circles. So I'm circling the fingers in and then out. And the hands are kind of relaxed. So see if you can add your hands and head together. And then another nuance in the dance is this roll of the spine. So this roll of the spine starts at the tailbone, and I scoop up my pelvis and then roll out through the top of the head. Roll the spine. And then the hands for this, when we do this movement, will be crossed and I'll be snapping. So it'll be snap and snap. So let's just start, we'll start by just walking with this spinal articulation and snapping. This is going to be some very old school Yemenite music.
أناني بتفيلا بعت أقرأ بعت أقرأ بشير داويتي شمائل عناني بتفيلا شمائل عناني بتفيلا بعد أقرأ بشير داويت إلا بعد أقرأ بشير داويت إلا لفانها أنينا شبعين لفانها أنينا شبعين يدوش قطن قدامني تحيل يدوش قطن قدامني تحيل شمال أناني بات في الله بعت أقرأ بشير داويته الله.
Thanks everyone. Good. Okay, that was our opening. So some hand gestures. And now we're going to go into the footwork. So is everything good? Okay, so the footwork, we have our Yemenite basic step. And for those of you, wiggle your hands if you've done Yemenite dance. Do this if you've done Yemenite. Not so many. Okay, so I'm going to maybe stick with basics. So here we go. This is Yemenite basic. We're going to step side and cross. So I'm going to transfer my weight out. Side and cross. Side and cross. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now add the feeling in the body of the bounce. Bounce, 2, 3. 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 Bounce, 2. You can add the head and the hands. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. Any questions? Any question? None? Okay, great. So basically with this Yemenite step, we're gonna add variations, but always remember this 3-step. The rhythm is a simple 4, but it's syncopated. So you're gonna see that there's a little bit of kind of a pause. Let's go with.
يكون
Awesome. How's it going? Are you getting out of breath? You can unmute yourselves if you want to say something. Any question about the feet?
I studied with Marguerite Obed in 1971 at UCLA. So this is really amazing. She would start out the class playing drums on oil cans.
Yes, and do you know the reason for that? The reason that the Yemenite Jews, they used kind of interesting things like, how do you say it, pach, like a garbage can or an empty olive oil thing, because instruments were actually forbidden. And I've heard different interpretations. Instruments were very, very problematic with Islam, you know, living in Yemenite country, it was Islamic, but also the Jews of Yemen themselves took that the voice was the most important instrument. And everything else was kind of like muktzeh, like instruments were in a sense muktzeh. I don't know how to translate that, but the voice became the main transmission of music for the Yemenite Jews. And everything else was just kind of like adding rhythm in ways that were not proper instruments. So it's very interesting, their music. So that song, who knows who the singer is? Azza, who we adore and love and worship. She is like queen of Yemenite vocals. And I'm gonna play another song of hers, and I wanna make a little combination for us with these basic steps. So here we go. We're gonna start with, you see my feet and arms? We're gonna start with Yemenite basic. And with Yemenite basic, let's find this kind of like weaving of the hands. I was watching actually last night my wedding. Maybe 20 years ago I was married to a Yemenite. It didn't last, but the wedding was amazing. And the men's side, the men were like doing all these like snaky arm things and like doing all these like drops to the ground, and the improvisational element is really cool. So we'll do 4 basic. 1, doesn't matter right or left. 2, 3, 4, and then jump, kick, jump, kick, jump. I'm doing my heel, jump, heel. So one more time. Basic, 2, 3, 4, and 1, da 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 da, 2, da da da, 3, da 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 da, 4, da 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 da, hop, skip, down. So hop, skip, down, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. After that, we walk in a circle with our Yemenite walk using the spine. Right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, beginning, and 1, da 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 da, 2, da 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 da, 3, da 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 da, 4, da 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 da, 1, 2, 3, 4, hop, 5, 6, 7, and walk, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The only thing I forgot is the turn. So let's add the turn. We go side, da 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 da, side, side, side. Now we turn. Half turn, half turn, half turn, half turn, and then jump. Da 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 da, 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 hop. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Walk, and then basic. So for the turn, let's go from basic, 2, 3, 4, and turn. Da, 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 2. I'm dropping down and pushing my pelvis a little bit forward. So boom, da, da, boom, da, 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 boom, da, 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 boom. Ready? And basic. 1, da, 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 2, da, 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 3, 4, and 1, da, 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 2, 3, 4, hop. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hop step. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Walking. Okay, I'm out of breath. Are we ready with music? Music? Okay, if you're getting out of breath, it's a good thing. We've got to get our cardio working a little bit. So actually, I'm tempted to play Tzion Golan. Tzion Golan. Yeah, let's do this now.
أبشي معا كن معاوني لا دعيت حينني أبشي معا كن معاوني لا دعيت حينني لا دعيتك نص الليل حينني بالباكر لا دعيتك نص الليل حينني بالباكر لا دعيتك نص الليل حينني بالباكر أبشي معاك كن بعوني لا دعيتك في زماني أبشي معاك كن بعوني لا دعيتك في زماني أبشي معاك أبا شمعون لا دعيتك في سواد الليل يا أبا شمعون لا دعيتك في سواد الليل يا أسألك بالله بقولي عتجيب العافية أسألك بالله بقولي عتجيب العافية أسألك بالله بقولي عتجيب العافية أبا شمعون كن بعوني لا دعيتك في زماني أبا شمعون كن بعوني لا دعيتك في زماني أبا شمعون أبا شمعون كم دعيتك كم أراعي للجواب أبا شمعون كم دعيتك كم أراعي للجواب لا دعيت بالليل الأسود أنت بي وأنا الولد لا دعيت بالليل الأسود أنت بي وأنا الولد لا دعيت بالليل الأسود أنت بي وأنا الولد أبا شمعون كن بعوني لا دعيتك في زماني أبا شمعون كن بعوني لا دعيتك في زماني أبا شمعون أبا شمعون يا ظنيني وين ما سر عينني أبا شمعون يا ظنيني وين ما سر عينني عينني وارحم لحالي حين تسلي خاطري عينني وارحم لحالي حين تسلي خاطري عينني وارحم لحالي حين تسلي خاطري لا 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 أبا شمال كن بعوني لا دعيت حينني أبا شمال كن بعوني لا دعيت حينني
What is this gesture? This is Nunu of the grandma. We had that in some of our Yemenite choreographies in Bal. Shaking the head with the no. Very good, everyone. Yeah, I can see you all. How was it? Are you getting your heart moving? Are you sweating?
Yeah.
So the men tend to do a lot of like drops to the ground. The women less so. They do as well, but the men really show off by doing like this movement that I was doing. They would do squat. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to save our knees, but I just wanted to show that option for those of you that are excited about that. The last variation, for those of you that want that last variation, is cross, cross, Yemenite step. So I'm going to face this way so it's easier for you to follow. Cross, cross, Yemenite step. Cross, cross, left, right, left. Right, right, left, right, left. Cross, cross, Yemenite step. Did you get that? So that's a more advanced step if you're at a party and want to show off. I'm going to show one more advanced step for anybody out there that needs a new Yemenite step. This one goes, kick together, Yemenite step, kick. Let's see. Boom, bam, beep, bam, bam. So together, kick right, and Yemenite step. Kick together, right, and Yemenite step. Kick, and Yemenite step. Slow. Kick, right, step, Yemenite step. Kick, right, and Yemenite step. Boom, ba, 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 beep, ba, 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 boom, ba, 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 beep, ba, 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 boom, ba, 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 beep, ba, ba, boom. This is an advanced step. I'm going to play the music. Everybody's going to improvise on everything they've learned before we move on to Moroccan. So I want to see your fancy moves. Improvise. And we'll go back to our beloved, where'd she go? Oh, Frachaza. Good job, everyone. Sorry to cut that one off, but I want to leave enough time for Moroccan dance, and our time is going. So that was a very mini
Everybody needs to mute. It keeps on going off of you. It keeps on going.
My training comes from the Inbal Ethnic Dance Company of Israel, which I believe is not performing anymore. I was in kind of the last generation of the company. So now we're going to move into my home territory, which is Moroccan dance. So I haven't done this in a long time. I pretty much do it every Mimouna for Jimena, and I'm so sad this year that we can't offer performance, but hopefully next year. And at the very end of this session, I would love to just show a 1-minute clip, those of you that want to stay and see something. So the first movement we're going to learn for the Moroccan dance is actually protection. And in Yemen, in Moroccan culture, Moroccan culture, the hand of Fatima, the hand, the Khamsa, sends out protection and blessing. So the hands are going to go from down to out. And with that, we're going to be shaking our hips right, left. I think I need a hip scarf. I don't have much hips without my scarf. Okay, so we're going to go walking forward, right, left, right, left. Don't worry too much about right and left. Just walk forward for 4. So one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then shoulder shimmy back, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder shimmy back. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder shimmy back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder shimmy back. We're going to do that to the 4 directions. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder shimmy back. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder shimmy back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder shimmy back. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder and. Now we have the pelvic thrust. So the pelvis is going to go up and back, up, back, up, back, up, back. I'm going to add the hands, up, back, up, back. So ideally, your belly should bounce. My Moroccan family is very upset at me that I am not more voluptuous. They think I'm unhealthy. They say you need to eat meat, you need to eat more food. Because to do this movement properly, you should have a belly and it should bounce. So I don't really have quite enough, but if you have a belly, this is a chance to use it. So bounce the belly, bounce the belly, bounce the belly, bounce. Nice. Next move, I have a gesture like this with my hands. And for me, this gesture is like I'm dropping my seeds to the earth. I'm going to do this with the hip drop. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, drop, drop, small, big, small, big, small, big, drop, 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 small, big. And this movement we can take in a circle if we want, traveling around. Nice. Then from there, the next movement is a simple hip circle. So the hip circle is very important in the Moroccan dance style. And I'm just going to do my Khamsa hands. So the hands will go like this. Circle the hips and hold the Khamsa. And then we're going to go fast. Woo! Very good. And then out of that, we get to sway. So like I mentioned, in Moroccan dance, there's a big trance element. Usually the end of Moroccan, the hair is down and there's hair flinging and tossing and it gets very, very wild. And you'll see You'll see grandmas do this dance, totally go wild with their hair, and then do a somersault on the ground and get up. Like amazing things. This is not a dance for young people. This is a dance for all ages of women. So let's start from the beginning. Khamsa, Anna. Khamsa, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder shimmy back. Anna. Khamsa, 2, 3, 4. Shoulder shimmy back. We'll do this to the 4 directions, but not now. We'll do it with music to the 4 directions. And then next one is toss the belly back, toss, back, toss. Next movement is the hip drop. Drop, big, small, big, small, big, small, big, small, big, small, big, small, big. And the gesture again is the 2 middle fingers go 1, 2. And it's like you're blessing the earth from your hip, from the seat of humanity, from the womb and pelvis to the earth. Drop, 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 drop. Next movement is the hip circle. Woo! Hip circle, hip circle. Khamsa Lake. Send out the blessings through your palms. And then we get drunk, relaxed, and sway. You can hold your head. Nice. And then the last move is a Moroccan samba step. So here's the samba step. I'm gonna step right foot forward and then hop back. So it's right, right, left. Right, right, left. Right, right, left. Right, right, left. So you essentially, I'll mirror you. You essentially place your foot and then you hop back. Place the foot, hop back. Place, hop back. Facing this way. Right, right, right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then the arms can do this. Did you guys get that footwork or was that too hard? Speak. Everybody's muted. Okay.
Could you show it again?
Great. And then maybe we'll end with a little bit of like wild trance. Okay, so let's start. It's hard for me to talk over the music. That's why I wanted to do the talking first. So, music. Good, but it's way too fast. Okay, let's practice Nagari. This is very important. You're gonna cover your mouth and you're gonna use your tongue, the roof of your mouth, and make a very high sound. Ready? Nice. How's everybody? So maybe unmute everyone. Any questions? Please unmute yourself if you have a question.
No questions. It was just really fun.
Is there time for me to just show like a 1 minute?
It's amazing. Thank you.
Great.
Can you send the song later and I'll post it on the IAC page?
Yes, the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are you guys going to record this?
What's that?
Are you going to record this and send it to us?
Oh,
you can see it on the IAC page, and you can also see it after it, if you want, with Miriam or the Jimena page. We are going after it to start a session with a DJ.
Okay, you have that now, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I will upload, I don't have it yet in YouTube, but I'll upload a video to YouTube so you can see my whole group dancing the Moroccan Shikhat dance in the kaftan and the traditional costume and everything. Yeah, thank you so much for dancing with me. This brought back memories of Israel and my family and my henna 20 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you.
So
I even put my kaftan on because
so beautiful. I saw it. I love it. Oh.
Let's do it. I got the vibe through the Moroccan vibe through the Zoom. Miriam, I think a lot of people asked about the song and the dance. Maybe you can write your website down below in the chat, and then people can join you. I know you're also doing classes on Saturday, so maybe people would like to join those classes as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to click to everybody, both my website and my email. So you can email me. And do you have a way, though, that I could send to everybody the video?
If it's on YouTube, we can send a link.
Okay, so I'll do that. I'll upload it because right now it's not uploaded to YouTube. I'll upload and then send it. But here's my email if anyone wants to follow up with me. And my website, I have a class page with my Zoom dance offerings. Here we go.
But I cannot see you here. I cannot see that here. Let me see in the. Oh,
she just wrote it down below in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. When the Zoom is over, let me take a screenshot because when Zoom is over, it's not gonna be able to show. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So stay with us. We have another session with DJ Hummus starting pretty much now.
So use all your new moves, everyone. You've got a lot of new moves, hopefully.
Can we stay?
Yes, please. Please
Thank
stay,
you.
Miriam. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, please stay with us. And let me see. That was amazing. Thank you, honestly. Like, it was a lot of fun. I worked up a good sweat doing it too.
Good. We need that. It's detox.
Yeah.
From all the worry.
From all the mufleta that we had.
Oh, yes.
So I would love for everybody to stay, but I would like to introduce our DJ now. And please sing, please join. We're gonna probably spotlight videos like we did again. It was a lot of fun seeing everybody dance along, and we hope to continue the party. So our DJ is of Persian Israeli background. He has done hundreds of events, including events in New York City, Miami, Tel Aviv, at the Shabda Lighthouse. He's performed with Static and Benel, Subliminal, Ma'oradri, Pertasi, and more. His specialty is Israeli Mizrachi, Middle Eastern music. He loves spreading the hummus, as you could tell. His name is DJ Hummus, and Balagan to brighten everybody's moods. So, as you can see on his shirt, Yalla Balagan, we are ready to...
What's up, guys? Ma kore? You guys were amazing. Great dancing. Let's kick it off with some Moroccan. Happy Mimouna Day. Yalla Balagan, let's go.
أهلاً وسهلاً أهلاً بيكم فرحتوا قلبي نفرح بيكم.
Guys, let me know if you hear me well, if the sound is good. Give me an okay.
أهلاً أهلا بيكم أهلا وسهلا أهلا بيكم مرحبا بيكم زيدوا يا حبايبي مرحبا اليوم أهلا بيكم يلا بلغان اهلا وسهلا اهلا بيكم
Let's go, guys.
כולם את הידיים מרימים עובדים פה עם התיירים ביום ובלילה זזים לפי הקצב כי אף פעם אני לא מפוס עם כמה בנות על הטוסטוס יושב על כמה מנות של פוס
I forgot one thing, watch this.
מי אמר שזה נגמר בוא תעסק איתי כי וואלה יש לי פיוס קצר אבל בבוקי עבור מי שעובר את הגבול אני בא עם האורס ממנו מעמול את אוהבת את הגבר הקלאסי אני יכול להיות רוסי אמריקאי או פרסי אלג'יראי תימני עיראקי או ברזילאי נראה לי שהיום אני מרוקאי אהלן וסהלן
אהלן וסהלן אהלן ביקום אם מישהו עוד יושב והזמן לחוש אהלן וסהלן אהלן ביקום תרימו את הידיים לשמיים
בקומבינה, מתל אביב עד גופינה רוקדים מדינה, בחתונה בוחינה על כל הבשרים אני מורח את הטחינה הגעתי על טוסטוס, חזרתי בלימוזינה תוסיף עוד חריף ורק תתבייש אני לא אוכל את זה כי זה לא חם אש מתמכר לזה גם עם הגרון יבש שמכירים אותי לכזה בגלל
Let's go, guys. Let's try this again. We're gonna say Ach Shelanu Mitchaten. You guys are gonna say Dalale, Dalale. Ready? Let's do it again.
אח שלנו מתחתן, דללה דללה, הכל אבל כדחן, דללה דללה, אח שלנו מתחתן, דללה דללה, הנה היא מלכה דחן, דללה דללה דללה. לא יאמן יאמר לו כן, אח שלנו מתחתן, לילה לבן, כלה וחתן ויאללה בלגן. לא יאמן יאמר לו כן, אח שלנו מתחתן, לילה לבן, כלה וחתן ויאללה בלגן.
לא תתכנני דבר, הוא אומר לי, סגרתי נופש למחר, אחי הוולי, אני החתנתית נפליג עם כמה חברים, אם רק היה לי נשכח מההורים, אני לא חשדתי בכלום, הוא הבטיח, כל קרה פתאום בפום, הוא הציע, ירד על הברכיים ושלח את היהלום, את תנסי לי בייבי אני בחלום.
Yeah, guys, everyone get up, let's go!
מאורסת לגבר, הכי חטיפיים, מאורסת ומתחשק לי כל היום לשיר לו. ממי אתן לבטן לכם במתנה, ובקיץ ילך חתונה. מאורסת לגבר, הכי חטיפיים, מאורסת ומתחשק לי כל היום לשיר לו. ממי אתן לבטן לך במתנה, ובקיץ ילך חתונה. תהילה של ילד עבר תרקוד
you.
נשתה ונשמח חזק כמוח, ומהצרות תשכח. והבנים והבנות רבים פה על השולחנות. הייליך בביגליך ביינועה, הייליך בביגליך ביינועה, הייליך you like a drum. Never show you that it's so
בחרחור פתאום עולה, הלב מתחיל להתמלא, מה הסיבוב הזה עושה לה? היא מתוקה כמו סוכריה, כמו קרמלה. בחרחור פתאום עולה, הלב מתחיל להתמלא, מה הסיבוב הזה עושה לה? היא מתוקה כמו סוכריה, כמו קרמלה. אני נזכר בשיר ישן, מתחיל לזוז לי האגן, אז בואי לכאן, סיפור קטן, אולי נרקוד כמו ביוון, ולא כמו ביוון.
אז בואי לכאן, סיבוב קטן, אולי נרקוד כמו ביוון, ולא כמו ביוון.
בחרחור פתאום עולה, הלב מתחיל להתמלא,
הופה.
מה זה עושה לה? היא מתוקה כמו סוכריה,
כמו קרמלה.
בחרחור פתאום עולה, הלב מתחיל להתמלא, מה הסיבוב הזה עושה לה? היא מתוקה כמו סוכריה,
כמו קרמלה.
כמו איזה שני משוגעים בחוף, שמרנו רגעים בלב שתינו את הנוף, ואת היית יפה כמו פרח שאסור היה לקטוף, רציתי רק לקטוף אותך, רציתי לקטוף, כמו איזה שני משוגעים.
בוא נרוץ רחוק, רק כמה דקות, לא להיזכר במקומות שאז היינו ילדים, לא פחדנו סתם לחיות, היו הצעות, לבדוק את התקופות, כמו כביסה על חבלים, כמו איזה שני משוגעים, בחוף, שמרנו רגעים בלב שתינו כנוף, ואת היית יפה כמו פרח, שאסור היה לכתוב, רציתי רק לכתוב אותך, רציתי לכתוב,
כמו איזה שני משוגעים בחוף, שמרנו רגעים בלב שתינו את הנוף, ואת היית יפה כמו פרח שאסור היה לכתוב, רציתי רק לכתוב אותך, רציתי לכתוב, כמו איזה שהם משוגעים.
לא נוסיף את החגיגה עד שהבוקר במסיבה גדולה הלילה, אז בואו נשתולל מסיבה גדולה הלילה, נשמח איתכם, נרקוד נשיר כולנו עד שנשתכר.
לא נפסיק את החגיגה עד שהבוקר במסיבה גדולה הלילה, אז בואו נשתולל.
Let's go, guys. יאללה, בלגן!
נפסיק לחגיגה עד שהבוקר במסיבת כל הלילה אז בואו נשתולל תל אביב כמה הכל יפה לך לא סתם אומרים יגעת מחלבה וראש גם חוגגים כמו באמצע הפרלה אצלנו אומרים שבסדר ואצלם אומרים שטודו טודו 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 קרנבל פה, כמו בסאו פאולו אז בואי תקשיבי לי ניניה תפסיקי להיות לי קטסה חריתי לך כמו קטריניה קטריניה, רטוקה בואי נסתום לכולם את הבוקה אם חשבת שאני מבלחיר אז איך זה שאת כל הגריף זה במוקה יד אחת עם הכוס באוויר לחיים סלוט, שירס זו העיר שכדאי להכיר ואם כבר הכרתם תתחילו לשיר מתל אביב כמה הכל יפה לך לא סתם אומרים יגעת המחלבה
Guys, I want your neighbors to hear this. Let's go. I know you know the words. Yeah. Pull up.
Hey, tudo, tudo bom. Hey, tudo, tudo bom. Como é sério? Tudo bom, tudo bom, tudo bom.
Sounds like mod cook a little bit, huh?
Ay, ay, ay.
Pull up. Yeah!
אין מה לעשות איתה, היא רק רוצה לבכור תיקח אותה, היא רק רוצה לבכור מהחוף של מיקונוס עד החוף של מוש עליה לבד עכשיו על מחר, היא רק רוצה לבכור
רגע, פיניטו?
אין מה לעשות איתה, היא רק רוצה לבכור שמאלות תיקח אותה, היא רק רוצה לבכור מהחוף של מיקונוס עד החוף של מוש עליה לבד עכשיו על מחר, היא רק רוצה לבכור אין מה לעשות איתה, היא רק רוצה לרקוד איפה לא תיקח אותה, היא רק רוצה לרקוד מהחוף של מיקונוס עד החוף של מוש עליה לבד עכשיו על מחר, היא רק רוצה לרקוד אין לנו זמן, שחור או לבן, שנה את הגישה, היא אומרת נצא למדף, מבצע מטורף, רואה את החיים קצת אחרת
עשות חתונה, שמלה לבנה, חבל לה על הכסף, עם כל הכבוד
ויש לה כבוד,
היא רק רוצה לרקוד
אין מה לעשות איתה, היא רק רוצה לרקוד איפה לא תיקח אותה, היא רק רוצה לרקוד מהחוף של מיקונוס עד החוף של מוש
עליה לבן, תחשוב על מחר,
היא רק רוצה לרקוד
תיקח על המזרום
קצת אשר רצית לבוא אם כבר הגעת לפה, תגיד איך הגעת לפה כולן נהייתות אני ברקסי אין לי עצור אני ברקסי לא כאילו תבלה אני עושה לי סטפים נכון עושה כאילו מה אני רק עושה כמו מדורה כמו ולי בסור עושה תמיד עיניים למי שמסתכל תשמור על הידיים אתה קצת מתבלבל תקנה על העניין ולכל מי ששואל זה רק להניע הבאות והכל של ישראל
שחור לבן, נו מה, לא אתה להריב, איך אתה
שנית, אני יוצאת סתומה. מה עושים עכשיו? עושה לי גב וברברים בבטן. מפה מאוהב נקרא לערב, או סתם נשבור את החדר.
זה לא שביקשתי כפר, רציתי סוף טוב לספר. לא צריך קפה, נגמר יפה, נגיד שלום, תודה.
מה לעשות? לחבק או לשתוק להרים הכנסות, רק תגידי לי מה.
ממי, מה אתה מתחיל בלתי? אני לא חוזר לא קרטים, צריך להרים את חליל. Boy, you better beg me, beg some more. Turn up the girl, beg me, beg some more. Boy, you better beg me, beg some more. Turn up the girl, beg me, beg some more.
Some throwback Sarit Madad.
ולשטוף הרבה בחורה מביתו צריכה להיות תמימה ולשטוף הרבה אם תגלי לו מה בליבך אם תשאלי אותו למה בלב אולי יקומו וילך אל תדברי על כבוד יש חגיגה אומרים אני מסיבה אומרים אני התחתנה הרגענו חדורה חושן יש מסיבה אני הולך בסיבה גם לא תהיה מדורה אומרים שבל זה חושן
שמש יוקדת והיא כבר רוקדת קבל את האגן כמו מתקות בים פה מהבוקר עם קולה ביוקר נהיה לנו חם עולה לי בלגן פי איזה דבר מתאים הליבור פי איזה דבר מגיע מחור על החוף את מאפנטת את כולם עם שיזוק של שוקו פה ובגד ים של גומי כאן שוקו בו 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 גומי גם שוקו בו 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 גומי גם כולי מזיע, יש לי משהו נייס להציע להיכנס למכונית ונתניע יש עוד הרבה להספיק גם לפני שהערב מגיע וואליה, כמה אנרגיות בטריה, אחלה אנרגיות מממיה איך שהוא זז, אני ולירז קוראים לו גרמיה
מה קורה? What's up guys? DJ Hummus here. Let's start this balagan right now. Happy Mimouna! Everyone get up, let's go! כולה!
איך היא אוהבת את השמש, שחישת על החול, מטיילת על החוף כל יום אני קורא לה מטורפת היא חמה יותר מאש, אבל הלב קופא לי במקום כשהיא שומעת רגטון אז פתאום בא לה לרקוד 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 איך היא אוהבת את השמש, שחישת על החול, מטיילת על החוף כל יום אני קורא לה מטורפת היא חמה יותר מאש, אבל הלב קופא לי במקום כשהיא שומעת רגטון אז פתאום בא לה לרקוד 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 כנראה היום דליק כי אתם כולם פה שורפת קוראת להם פלמים כי הם קוראים לך מאלפת הגוף שלה סכום הבגד גם בצבע קשת אז איך אותו תפס אדם הכי גדול לרשת שהיא עובדת ולכולם אומרת ביי 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 לא מדבר אליה כסף, לא מדבר אליה רגע תדבר איתה על איך שהיא אוהבת את השמש שחישת על החול, מטיילת על החוף כל יום אני קורא לה מטורפת היא חמה יותר מאש, אבל הלב קופא לי במקום שהיא שומעת רגטון אז פתאום בא לה לרקוד שומעת רגטון אז פתאום בא לה לרקוד שומעת רגטון אז פתאום בא לה לרקוד שומעת רגטון שיגיד לך אין יותר מועדונים סיבובים כל לילה אין יותר מועדונים סיבובים כל לילה אין יותר מועדונים סיבובים כל לילה אין יותר מועדונים שיגיד לך את
אומרת תגמרו משחקים, את אורזת תתמלא בגד ושב על ההורג, כי הלילות שלך יותר מדי קרים, מסתובבת עד שנאמרים חברים, הפעלת הגבר שהם רוצים רק בסרטים, שאני אהיה בדיוק אותם וללב עושה קסמים, עושה קסמים, עושה קסמים. את אומרת נגמרו במשחקים, נמאסו עלייך כל חבר'ה במועדונים, אז לא אמרת שיקורה על החיים, כולך איך של סיגריות את נופלת בום על הסינים, חיפשת מישהו מסודר על החיים, שייתן לך את השקט שלהם לכל האנשים, אבל מה הגיל שלא תמיד מוצאים את האהוב אין יותר מועדונים, סיבובים כל הלילה, אין יותר מועדונים, סיבובים כל הלילה, אין יותר מועדונים, סיבובים כל הלילה, אין יותר מועדונים, שיגיד לך שעה ומתי, אני בא ומתי, את יורדת למטה הולכים לים. לא, אני up like fire. שימי ביקיני קטן לבקיני, נהייתי בלונדיני מרוב שהשמש שם. לא, אני up like fire. כאן זה לא קובה, אבל יש לי שמש בראשה. תסובב לה הטמפרטורה, סובה, 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 תן לה הטמפרטורה, קח אותה לקובה,
Yeah, everyone get up right now. Let's do this. No. Everybody get up. Yalla, let's do this right. Mimouna, yalla, balag.
Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena. Macarena, dale tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo va a dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dale tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena, dale tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo va a dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dale tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena, alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo va a dar la alegría y cosas
את משחקת פה על חבל דק, ואם הלכת למעק, אללה מעק, איתך אני נחנק. את משחקת פה על חבל דק, ואם הלכת למעק, אללה מעק, די אני נחנק.
כל הלילה כמו מטורף הלוך ושוב, לצד הלכתי, באתי, מה ביקשת, כבר אמרת זאת. כשהתאכזבתי אז מה שמספרים לך זה ממש לא זה, תפסיקי לחיות איתי על הקצה. כל הלילה כמו מטורף הלוך ושוב, כל הלילה מחפש אותך ברחוב, כשהשתגעתי מה יכול להיות לך טוב, כשהתבלבלתי באתי ולך נשבעתי, את הכל אעשה הנעשה ואמרת לי תלך. את משחקת פה על חבל דק, ואם הלכת למעק, אללה מעק, איתך אני נחנק. את משחקת פה על
אחד על גג, ועם הלך על המעק,
Stadboyen. Bener Stadboyen.
Let me hear you say let's go. Here's a little story about my friend Hayim. Gave me a call about a hit. I said, count me in. I've been winning with the women since I was a kid, and now I can't stop, won't stop. Just like did it, oh, no he didn't, oh, yes he did, oh, always winning, now it's time for billions. Game fake, big real, I'm ill, I'm sick, so sick, I wish them well. We turning up, we burning up, we always moving, further up, dale mami disfruta, que yo sé que te gusta. Get M's and then stack them, don't let them distract us. Excuse me, Mr. DJ, pretty girl,
let's go.
Now let me hear you say אין לנו איביזה, אין הרבה בוויזה, אבל יש את הבריזה של אילת והכנרת. אז אם אתה מרגיש שחם, תתארגן על הטובר בגד ים. אין עוד קיץ כזה במדינה אחרת. אז בוא נשים את כל הבעיות בצד, ביחד נלמד אותם אחד אחד, שמה שמדבר אל הישראלים זה מסע עם סלסולים.
Yalla guys.
וולקאם, פותחים נכון, המקום הכי חם במזרח התיכון, מדינה קטנה, סתכלו סביב, יש ביג בלבן בתל אביב. חולים על מעולים, ועפים איך שהביג נכנס, הקצב של הבסים, יעשה לך בראש קרקס. ועד מתי באמצע מדבר, לא צריך עוד שום דבר, אז אני שם. אין לנו איביזה, אין הרבה בוויזה, אבל יש את הבריזה של אילת והכנרת. אז אם אתה מרגיש שחד, תתארגן על הטוב ועל בגד ים. אין עוד קיץ כזה במדינה אחרת. אז בוא נשים את כל הבעיות בצד, ביחד נלמד אותם אחד אחד, ומה שמדבר אל הישראלים זה מסע עם סלסולים.
Yalla guys. Belly dancers out there, I want to see your moves right now. Let's see what you guys learned. Let me hear you.
לרקוד ולזוז ולרקוד ולזוז ולרקוד ולזוז ולרקוד ולזוז ולרקוד ולזוז ולרקוד ולזוז אז ללוז להזיז את האחוז לא לתת מריכוז ולרקוד ולזוז ולרקוד ולזוז ולרקוד ולזוז
Tenga un poquito, dime, vale, vale, papi, baile, baile, como sabes, sabes, la música me hace todo suave, suave,
Sexy girl, now you move my mind, yeah, I just don't know if I'll be in time, yo. Sexy girl, looking so feel fine. Why you wanna dance, no se te sepa. Velicón de las luz, 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 אז ללוז, להזיז את האחוז, לא לצאת מריכוז ולרקוד ולזוז, לרקוד ולזוז לזוז, לרקוד, לרקוד, לזוז לרקוד ולזוז, ולרקוד ולזוז, ולרקוד ולזוז, ולרקוד ולזוז, ולרקוד ולזוז יאללה ריקודים מהפכה, כאילו בלגן במדינה, ילד שלא מכירה, כל רגע לסבור במדינה, התנסמות לנשמה, עוד בצד בצד, שומעים אותנו בקלישה, עם הגדיים בקלישה. שמעתי שעושים פה מסיבה בלעדיי, אף אחד לא עושה את זה יותר טוב ממני, היי, נשים את הצרות מאחוריי, אני לא הולך עד שכולכם מג'ונים, היי, שמעתי שהתחלתם בלעדיי, אף אחד לא עושה את זה יותר טוב ממני,
כולנו משפחה. יאללה גייז, תקשו את!
כולכם מג'נון,
כולם ביחד! יאללה! 1, 2
מהפכה של שמחה, כי כולנו משפחה,
שנרקוד בטירוף, כי הגיע הזמן לעוף.
מעכשיו רק שמחה, משתייה ועד צריכה,
השתגענו מודים, אם שותים כן רוקדים.
אתם מוכנים? תרימו את הידיים תרימו את הידיים
ויאללה בנה יאללה, יאללה בנה יאללה, יפרח המנעול, מה שאלה, יאללה בנה יאללה, יפרח המנעול, מה שאלה. של שמחה, כי כולנו משפחה,
ונרקוד בטירוף, כי הגיע הזמן לעוף.
מעכשיו רק שמחה, משקיעה ועד בריחה,
השתגענו מודים, אם שותים כמו
אני יודע שהכל יהיה בסדר, לא משנה מה כולם מדברים בסדר, ניתן בראש בעזרת
כולם! No one can hear you, but okay.
אני יודע שהכל יהיה סבבה, ניתן להנשמה נביא את הסמכה.
Let's go!
and you blown it. Come on.
Israël est magnifique, mais un peu problématique. Chez nous on disait m'aspic, comme si comme ça c'est attique. Par exemple sur Tel Aviv y'a tout de tout sans déconner, mais c'est toujours pas parfait. Attends, je vais tout expliquer. Comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça. Oh, les gens stressés, ça travaille toujours, sont tous occupés mais débordent partout. Tous s'éparpillent et tous se salivent, même les avocats ici sont endormis. Je marche dans la rue, tout le monde est différent. Les gens qui se disputent comme des petits enfants, ils font tous le même mais à même pas le temps. La totale chiche à la Paris, à Sarkani, à Mizrachi. Les mademoiselles en Israël,
Oulala! Let's go!
Comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça.
תצלחו, צריך טיול, תגידי מה את אומרת, תרגינת 3, עושים בראש, מי צריך פה רכבת, כן אני רוצה, ואת רוצה, לטוס גבוה דרום אמריקה, אוי אמריקה, מתוקה, אוי כמה את יפה, הירח כאן ממול, תביני בורו איסטנבול, כאן מותר הכל בגבול, כמה תוצא קורבן שמה, לכזור אהבה, רגע מחייך שאת איתי, תובי על המצע שאני מאוהב לך בטירוף, ולא עשיתי שוב, מדוקה. בואי ניגע סירה ובגד ים, פשוט מעבר לאופק, נזרק בחול עם אלכוהול, וחייל עלי הדופק, כן אני מוצא, ואת רוצה לחלום בספרדית אמריקה, אוי אמריקה, מדוקה, אוי כמה את יפה, הירח כאן ממול, תביני בורו איסטנבול, כאן מותר הכל בגבול, כמה את עושה קורבן שמה, איזו אהבה, לילה מחייך שאת איתי, כתובי על המצח שאני מאוהב לך בטירוף, ולא עשיתי שוב, מדוקה.
Oh, chico, chico, san mi politicana. Tempo, tempo, soy colombiana. Oh, chico, chico, san mi politicana. Tempo, tempo, soy colombiana. Oh, chico, chico, san mi politicana. Tempo, tempo, soy colombiana. Oh, chico, chico, san mi politicana. Tempo, tempo, todo con las manos arriba.
Yeah, guys, let's do this. Pull up. 1, 2, yeah, time, Bobby.
רחוק מכולם, זה השניות הכי יפות בסוף העולם. בואי, אני אביא גיטרה, תראו את שישרה, נה 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 נה.
I want to hear you.
ניסה, רחוק מכולם, זה השניות הכי יפות בסוף העולם. בואי, אני אביא גיטרה, תראו את שישרה, נה 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 נה.
הדשא ירוק, בוא נתפוס פתיחה אני ואת ביין מתוק. אני אשיר על אהבה ואת תתחילי לצחוק. אני אוהב אותך כפי שאת צוחקת. על שמלה לבנה, את מדברת לפחות 80 ימים בשנה. תגיד לי אני אוהב בוא תהיה כאן חתונה. אז תהיי לחוצה, אני ואת שנצח ילדה. נמצא רחוק מכולם, אומרים שהשקיעות הכי יפות בסוף העולם. נו בואי, אני אביא גיטרה, תראו את שישרה נה 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 נה.
Opa, somebody brought a guitar, I see it. I brought a darbuka.
כל הלילה מסיבה וכולם משוגעים עליה ועליי, תרימו לה, תרימו לי. אז בואי נשבור את הראש ונצא לחביתות, זה הכל וכולם יעשו לנו כבוד. הלו הלו משטרה, יש פה שוב הלילה, עונב להם את הלב שמישהו יעצור אותי. בסוף יהיה טוב, אז בואו נצא לחביתות, זה הכל, זה הכל לבקעה. אז אני מדבר איתה שטויות על הלידה, שותפת פתאום ברוסית, עונה לי דה, אז מה את שותפת? בא לי טוב, תכף מחרנו, אל תחשוב, תגידי את השם כבר לא נושם, תגידי שתכף בא לי לנקות את הראש, כך איזה יומיים, להרגיש כמו איזה ילד מרק, מרק שעל הקיר, תגידי לה, שהיא הכי יפה בשביל שלי. כל הלילה מסיבה וכולם פה משוגעים עליה ועליי, תרימו לה, תרימו לי. אז בואי נשבור את הראש ונצא לחביתות, זה הכל וכולם יעשו לנו כבוד. הלו הלו משטרה, יש פה שוב הלילה, לב להם ללב שמישהו יעצור אותי. אם הסוף יהיה טוב, אז בואו נצא לחביתות, זה הכל, זה הכל לבקעה.
זה ייראה לכם מוזר אז חבל איך שהפכנו את האסלי מרוקאית אורגנל.
היידה מרוקאים!
כי לי אף פעם זה לא נמאס ואל תגידו זה לא נתפס. אני עושה לכם פוקליקה, אז יאללה תן לי סקול דרבוקה, אני עושה לכם פה שקשוקה, ויאללה איך אתנו מבוקה ודי. אז ממרוקו לציון אני עמוס בכישרון, אני מביא לכם סגנון וזה קליט כמו המנון. יא חביבי איווה, יא חביבי איווה, עיני وين حبيبي ديالي فينوا عيني وين حبيبي ديالي فينوا ويلي الليلة أنا ساكن بالسيبا ويلي الليلة أنا ساكن بالسيبا أيوة
Feel the magic in the air. The whole group boil. Feel the magic in the air.
Au revoir danser. Au revoir. Allez. Feel the magic in the air. Allez, the whole group boil. Allez. Feel the magic in the air. כבר מאוחר אחרי חצות, כולם רוקדים ברחובות, שם בתוך השיגעון, רוקדת לא עושה חשבון, וזה כבר לא נורמלי, מה שאת עושה לי,
בא לי להעיר עכשיו את כל העיר. וזה כבר לא נורמלי, מה שאת עושה לי. יש משהו באוויר, feel the magic in the air. Feel the magic in the air. Ale, 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 בכל הגוף בוער. Ale, 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 feel the magic in the air. Ale, 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 בכל הגוף בוער. Ale, ale, ale.
היידה, איזה בן זקן!
תזיזו את כל הגוף לפי המנגינה ותחבקו אותה באהבה. תשאירו את המילים כאילו אין מחר מגיע תמונה בהדלה. תמשיך המנגינה. זה כל המדינה ישר לכאן, זה בוער לי בגוף, משהו טירוף עכשיו קורה מדי. לא צריך לטוס למיאמי, שאתם פה איתי עוד מאמי. בוא נראה שפולטי ימי, בשביל הנשמה. בא לי כל היום שבע עיניים, שבאות הייתי נופל לשמיים, אבל תהיה איתי עין. תזיזו את כל הגוף לפי המנגינה ותחבקו אותה באהבה. תשאירו את המילים כאילו אין מחר מכיר תמונה בהדלה. תמשיך המנגינה.
Bucharest is the time of your life. Bucharest את עצמנו נשכח. איך כל פעם מתרגש מחדש. I never forget you, אני מקודש. מצאתי את עצמי לבד, משתעמם לי, פתאום הטלפון התחיל לצלצל ועל הקו חבר אבק שמתחתן לו, מזכיר בסוף שבוע, תתבלבל. סגרנו את המריות, הכל כבר מקודס, בדרך לרומניה אף פעם לא נמאס. ואם את קצת כועסת עליי זה לא נורא, זה לא חבר, זה אח שלי ואין לי שום ברירה. Bucharest is the time of your life. Bucharest את עצמנו נשכח. איך כל פעם מתרגש מחדש. I never forget you, אני מקושקש. Bucharest is the time of your life. Bucharest את עצמנו נשכח. איך כל פעם מתרגש מחדש. I never forget you,
Hello. Stay on the airplane. We're not done yet. Bucharest, next stop is a big surprise. Can you guess what the next stop is? We're going for a ride. We're מוכנים.
תל אביב, יא חביבי, תל אביב, תל אביב, יא חביבי, תל אביב. תסתכל כמה לירדי מסביב. עושים לי היי היי בלילה וואי וואי וסחטן על תל אביב תל אביב יא חביבי תל אביב תסתכל כמה לירדים מסביב עושים לי היי היי בלילה וואי וואי וסחטן על תל אביב
Guys, I don't know about you, I wish I was in Tel Aviv right now. כולם, יאללה!
היא מרגישה שנפתח לה מזל, פגשה אחד גבר גבר ורשל, והיא תלחש לו, מה היא תלחש לו? קח אותי על הגמל. I'm your beauty, you're my beast, welcome to the Middle East. תל אביב, יא חביבי תל אביב, תסתכל כמה לירדים מסביב. עושים לי היי היי בלילה וואי וואי וסחטן על תל אביב תל אביב יא חביבי תל אביב תסתכל כמה לירדים מסביב עושים לי היי היי בלילה וואי וואי וסחטן על תל אביב
חגיגה בישראל תגיד תודה לאל שיש לנו בית השמיים נקיים ושמש לפנים תרימו לחיים אז באנו לעשות לכם טירוף כולם תרימו את הידיים לשמיים תמיד אתה יכול לברוח מהכל עפו לשמיים
והבנות, מה עם הבנות? חדש בישראל הן הכי יפות והבנים, מה עם הבנים? כולם צבע שוקו על העזר שסופים כמה מסיבות, קופצים ברחבות מתה לשמש אבל חם לי ברמות ליאור, דודו, תעשו שכולם יעשו ליאור, דודו, תעשו שכולם יעשו חגיגה בישראל, תגיד תודה לאל שיש לנו בית השמיים נקיים ושמש לפנים תרימו לחיים אז באנו לעשות לכם טירוף כולם תרימו את הידיים לשמיים תמיד אתה יכול לברוח מהכל דודו, עפו לשמיים מיום ראשון עד חמישי אמרו לי שראות אותך באיזו מסיבה בחיפה בשעות הקטנות של הלילה איתו יושבת לידו ואמרו לי שהוא לוחץ פה כל מיני דברים באוזן ועל הצוואר שלו סימן של אוזן ורוד זה לא סוף שאת כבר שלו
הייתי גבר גבר, לא פחדתי שתלכי לי כי בכל מחיר את תחכי לי נשבע לך בסדר בסדר זה פשוט כבר לא מתאים לי החיים האלה לא טובים לי איך במציאות הכל היה כל כך הפוך לא חשבתי שאני ארד כל כך נמוך חברות שלך שטן בגללה כל הספסוף תחזרי אליי דפוק כי הלב שלי שפוך
בדרך כלל לא מקשיב, בדרך כלל זה לא מזיק ממה שאחרים אומרים
Guys, anyone have any requests? We might have some time for a couple of requests. Put it in the comments below. Yalla.
אותך באיזו מסיבה בחיפה בשעות הקטנות של הלילה איתו יושבת לידו ואמרו לי שהוא לוחץ לו כל מיני דברים באוזן מעל הצוואר שלו סימן של אוזן ורוד זה לא סוד שאת כבר שלו
עולם כחוהם, הבא אלייך שוב, עם געגועים בלב. הולך מכאן, חוזר לשם, משם לכאן, כל מה שיהיה תרונה. הולך מכאן, חוזר לשם, משם לכאן, כל מה שיהיה תרונה.
Oh, angel sent from up above. You know you make my world light up. When I was young,
Who said Stanga?
I was young.
עוד מעט.
Came to let me
מסיבת טבע coming soon. Get ready. כולם. Sing along.
למרחקים אני ארוץ אחריה, למרחקים שאהבתך כבר עליה. או בשביל הגמד המדבר, אני אף פעם לא נשבר, כי בלעדיה אני שום דבר.
למרות שהיא עדיין לא שלי, אני יודע שחום באהבה אני אמצא רק אצלה. לא בן מיליון ולא נעליים, הלוואי היה לי בוסם עם ריח כמו שלה. נמאס לי לפחד מהפחד, כי גם גרביים לא תואמות, בסוף יהיו ביחד. אני אתן לה זמן לחלוף, ובשבילה אני אלך עד הסוף.
למרחקים אני ארוץ אחריה, למרחקים שאהבתך כבר עליה. או בשביל הגמד המדבר, אני אף פעם לא נשבר, כי בלעדיה אני שום דבר. או בשביל הגמד המדבר, אני אף פעם לא נשבר, כי בלעדיה אני שום דבר. כמה שירים אני אכתוב עליה, כמו עיוור הולך אחריה. בדרך לסהרה, על הגב גיטרה, עושה את כל הדרך כדי לשמוע את השרה. בכלל לא מניע, תקוע בפרקים, וואלה אם צריך הסגה. למרחקים אני ארוץ אחריה, למרחקים שאהבתך כבר עליה. או בשביל הגמד המדבר, אני אף פעם לא נשבר, כי בלעדיה אני שום דבר. תני לי רגע פיצי, נותנת את הלב שלי תריצי, אתה אולימפוס, תעני לי, do you love me? יש לך לא מבלבל, לא מתנצל, הבחורה הכי יפה בכל ישראל, מלא וליוון, תלוי מי שואל, אחרי הכל ברור לך שקוראים לי ברנדד,
I love you all. Thank you so much for coming. Stick around. I'm going to be going a couple more minutes. Feel free to stick around. Keep going. Yalla, balaga. Happy Mimouna. Everyone stay safe. Yalla, let's go.
עכשיו תזיקים את ענדן צ'יקידן צ'יקידן, סוחבת הדרבוקות על הגב שנידן, רכבת לבני אבל הכי לידן, שילום מסוכן.
מסוכן זה עדיף, זאת שאם אתה שם על הלשון זה חריג, שבא לך לאכול כל היום פה חתיק, חלל לצאת האף לי עלה הסעיף, אין לי תחליף, אני אראה לך עולמות, אני לבגע סוס לראות, ושאלת השאלות, די נו, איזה ברנדד הולך להיות.
איזה עולם, משעמם לי בן אדם, אני נרדם, אוי בן אדם משועמם, איזה עולם, משעמם לי בן אדם, אני נרדם, אוי בן אדם משועמם.
איזה עולם, איזה עולם, משעמם לי בן אדם, אני נרדם, אוי בן אדם משועמם.
Guys, if you like any of the music, please check out SoundCloud. I have a bunch of mixes there. I'm going to put some Spotify links in the description also. Check out my Instagram. Hope you guys enjoy. Yada. 2 more songs.